So we're here, Interlagos paddock, busy day in Brazil. It's very bustling. Paddock's been kind of renovated the last 2 years. It's got a covered ceiling now, so it's quite noisy, all the pit stop practice going on, people walking around, but this is Interlagos. It's always mad, it's always a little bit crazy. And it comes in of a triple header. Everyone, gets a bit tired. We've got the increasing tension of a world championship fight. Lando, Norris, Max Verstappen, lots of stories bubbling away in Interlagos today. And I think the starting point, Phil, is obviously the Lando, Norris v Max Verstappen incident. We've heard both sides of the kind of debate today. I spoke to Lando, you spoke to Max, and you spoke to Max in Dutch as well, which is always interesting. What was Max's stance today?
Yeah, he was reasonably outspoken in the FIA press conference, but if you can speak to him in Dutch, he's always way more open and honest and happy to chat. And he's very vocal. Obviously, a lot of comments, a bit of a pile-on from a lot of pundits and analysts, and even FIA steward Johnny Herbert was very vocal on a website about him. He didn't take that particularly well. He says he doesn't read anything, but he still hears what everybody says. Probably fed to him by the team, and it's very outspoken. He's like, I think I just have the wrong passport for his paddock. Because of all the British pile-on that he suffered. Johnny Herbert's saying he took out or tried to take out Norris on purpose or drive him out on purpose. He's like, that's a pretty extreme accusation. He was not like angry or upset. He was just sort of like laughing at it from a distance and sort of bemused at the whole thing. He's already made it clear he's not going to change anything. That's just how he races. So that's going to stay his approach.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So I spoke to Lando. We had a session in the pen today. Quite a few takeouts. He's not spoken to Max, which is quite interesting. A departure from Austria. It's when they had a collision in Austria. They spoke a few days later, got it all sorted. This time, no conversation. It's a serious championship fight. And he was quite crystal clear. Basically said, it's not for me to tell Max how to drive. It's not for me to change. He thinks Max is the one who made the mistakes. And he reckon deep down, Max knew he'd done wrong in Mexico. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how dynamics go. We don't know yet officially if Max has got an engine penalty coming up this weekend. It's likely. And that could change the dynamic quite a lot. I think one of the other consequences and fallouts of this is it's put the focus again on driving guidelines. Obviously, a lot of talk in Mexico in terms of where things are at. Dive bombing for the apex, is that allowed? Is that the best tactic? Track guidance. I think one of the kind of feedbacks from the driver today actually is, find that the guidelines are needed, but I think actually the best way to solve it is to put gravel traps on the outside of corners. Is that kind of the message you were getting?
Yeah, pretty much. And we've heard from a range of drivers, all with differing opinions on the incident, but they all agreed on this. So Max, Lewis, George Russell, Oscar Piastri, they all said, if you put gravel there, we're not having this conversation, right? So it's something to look at, especially Austin and Mexico. I think Austin, they're already looking at it for next year. And I guess the theme is, for now, the guidelines aren't changing, so you can still launch it up the inside as long as you're ahead at the apex. So that's not going to change. So what does that mean for this weekend? We know 2021.
Yeah.
Max and Lewis, they obviously had a moment there, Max pushing Lewis out in high speed turn 4. Technically, you can still do that because there's no gravel there. Is that going to happen again? Max, as you say, probably has a grip penalty, so it's not likely going to be next to Norris, but you could, it's still possible. And as long as the guidelines are what they are, the driver's going to have to exploit that loophole.
So turn 4 here is unchanged. It was a problem in 2021. It's likely to be another problem here, especially you need to get around the outside, you get push wide. The other interesting track change here, it's not actually a physical change in terms of corners, but it's been resurfaced. The new surface is completely relayed, pit lane and track. Grip levels slightly below, kind of the roughness levels are below what they registered from last year, both micro and macro roughness. But grip levels are fairly similar to what we've seen. So it'd be quite interesting the teams tomorrow to find out, exactly how that stacks up and where it goes. But one difference that was noted, I was speaking to Pirelli earlier, is the new surface is, it's black, it's very, very dark. And what dark surfaces do is absorb the heat. So when the sun here can be, very, very bright, when it comes on, there's a huge spike in track temperatures, which is having kind of a big impact on thermal degradation. You don't throw that into a sprint race weekend. So we've got Pirelli have moved tyres softer here this weekend compared to last year. Now last year the soft tyre was a race tyre, The soft tyre this year won't be a race tyre, it'll probably be a qualifying tyre, which means that the focus for the race is going to be medium and hards. The question for teams is, are there enough of those tyres available in the sprint format to get through both a 24-lap race, sprint race, and the main Grand Prix on Sunday without compromising one or the other? So it's going to be really fascinating in free practice tomorrow to see how teams deal with this. Do they sacrifice the sprint race, take a gamble on going for the soft just to save themselves for the race? There's a lot of answers needed tomorrow. And I think it's going to be one of those fascinating 1 hour practice sessions we've got, because teams will understand their cars, understand the tyres, understand the track surface, understand the upgrades, and kind of nail their strategy because they're straight into qualifying. So I'm quite excited to see where that goes. I thought there were 2 other interesting stories today. Obviously there are lots of fallout in terms of RB, Red Bull, Sergio Perez, Liam Lawson from last weekend. Some quite harsh words floating either side. Driver market mix up. Franco Colapinto's emerged to be in the frame potentially as RB if Lawson steps up to Perez. And Franco's had this kind of massive hype train around him, hasn't he? He was pushed a little bit today in the press conference. You're right. What was Franco saying about that element of it?
Yeah, he's obviously trying to be careful because he was very liberal in the way he spoke to the media and said a lot of stuff that maybe Williams didn't really want him to say. So maybe he's toned it down a little bit. Yeah, it's out of his hands. So clearly, it's up to Williams and Red Bull to see if they can make a deal. Obviously, Red Bull don't want to take him alone and just train him and send him back to Williams. They just want to do a deal to keep him. I think it's been okay. I mean, he's clearly acquitted himself well. He raises elbows out, doesn't seem to feel the pressure despite the whole hype, as you say, from Argentina. Absolutely massive. He seems to be in a good place, and hopefully we get to see him on the grid, because I think everybody now agrees that he's got what it takes, so he deserves to be here.
It's quite interesting. Both Sergio and Liam, I spoke to them today. Obviously some words floating between either side after last weekend. Liam apologised for showing the finger, admitted he probably made mistakes in that incident with Sergio. He was racing Checo, but maybe raced him too hard, so it's something he learned. But he was absolutely crystal clear. He's not going to change his aggression. He got his elbows out against Fernando Alonso in Austin. He got his elbows out against Sergio in Mexico. And I think he's going to continue racing that way. And he's fighting for that RB seat. And Checo's trying to hold on to it. And Checo's tune was very critical of Liam after Mexico. And today he said he hadn't changed his opinion. He felt it was too much, felt it wasn't kind of good enough, but he rolls on. The other interesting thing, or 2 interesting things. One, Kevin Magnussen, suddenly things have clicked with the Haas. I spoke to him earlier on today. You kind of think upgrades come, maybe the aero has made the car more stable or a better platform, but he says no, it's nothing to do with that. He talks about being a brake difference, that basically the brakes start of the season he would brake and they wouldn't get the immediate feedback he wanted. It wasn't biting as kind of instant as he liked, because he very much likes an aggressive braking. He says that's transformed now, feels much more confident, and everything spirals from there. Your driver gets confidence on corner entry, they find some more time, they can better handle the corner, they can better manage their speed, and it all rolls up from there. I think the second element too is this is Phil's first time in Brazil, first Brazilian Grand Prix. Personally, one of my favourites. I absolutely love this place. Old school track, great city, great food, always a spectacular race. So, I mean, Phil, what's your verdict of Brazil so far, and what's your predictions for the weekend?
Great churrascaria. That's a start. Very, very good food. I lived in Argentina for a while, so I know about steak. I approve. Yeah, absolutely. Just such a classic circuit. I mean, you really can feel it when you walk into the place, down the tunnel there. It's got something to it. You can feel the history. Some of the circuits we go to, it's just, there's not really that vibe or that tradition, and you really feel it here.
Yeah.
Obviously, another Senna celebration this weekend as well, with Lewis Hamilton driving one of McLaren's old cars. So it's a cool event. What I expect, well, like you said, a lot of answers to chase the next couple of days with very little practice time. So ideally, you want to see some people qualify out of position, maybe the form table change a bit, and then we'll see. Lando Norris has a big weekend. If he has to keep his title hopes alive, he's going to have to be absolutely perfect with McLaren this weekend. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
So we'll be covering it all. Plenty to see tomorrow. We've got that fascinating practice session. We've got sprint qualifying. We've got an uncertain weekend and the World Championship to fight. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, a bit more answers about what's going to happen.